This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for KX with Ken. And the funny part is, we have two Kens today. I'm not
Bookends.
sure who's who. So, welcome, Mr. Ken. How are you today? Ludnick.
Uh, I'm good. A little technical stuff, but I'm here. I'm feeling good. Very excited about having this man on the show today.
Well,
Today's a real bell ringer for me. Hopefully for everybody else. You will see who this guy is. I mean, quiet, unassuming, but very very powerful. I'm going to read some of the stuff he's done after we make the introduction. So
oh,
should I start that now, or do you want to say?
absolutely. Now, go right ahead because I've been waiting to meet him for a long time.
Okay, so I'd like to welcome Ken Ferris onto the show. Uh, Ken
Thank you.
Ferris is initially, would you say you're a photographer?
Yes, basically a photographer. I worked in the business as a camera operator. Yes.
And then he got into the business as a camera operator and was a camera operator for close to 30, 35 years,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
From like 85 to 10, somewhere like that.
Yep.
So if you look him up, if you look up Ken Ferris filmography on the internet, it's a couple pages long in terms of the amount of movies that he has shot and the amount of top level people that he has worked with. So if you'll indulge me, I'll just go through a short list, short list of some of the work that he's done. He worked as a cameraman on The Sopranos with Gandolfini, Imperioli, Sharippa, Sirico, Edie Falco, Lorraine Bracco. I mean, you're talking about A-listers. Did that for over 6 years, it said. And he works Law and Order, Criminal Intent, and SVU with D'Onofrio, Bagnosian, Chris North, the whole cast. Works on a movie called Rabbit Hole with Nicole Kidman, Aaron Eckhart, Diane Wiest, and Sandra Oh. Spinning the Butter, Sarah Jessica Parker, Miranda Richardson, Bo Bridges. These are not, C-list names. Along Came Polly, Ben Stiller, Jennifer Aniston, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Alec Baldwin. I don't know what it's like to work with him, but I got to ask a few questions about that. Gloria, 1999, with Sharon Stone and George C. Scott. Pleasantville, Tobey Maguire, Jeff Daniels, Joan Allen, William Macy. Up Close and Personal, Robert Redford, Michelle Pfeiffer. Mr. Wonderful, Matt Dillon, Annabelle Sciorra, William Hurt, Luis Guzman, who I love. Last Action Hero with Arnold. F. Murray Abraham, Art Carney, Anthony Quinn, Ian McKellen, Chevy Chase, Jim Belushi. Preacher's Wife, Denzel Washington, Whitney Houston, Gregory Hines, Lionel Richie. Scent of a Woman. Wasn't big enough. Now he works with Al Pacino, Chris O'Donnell, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Fried Green Tomatoes. Kathy Bates, Jessica Tandy, Mary Louise Parker, Cicely Tyson, Mary Louise Masterson. The Super, Joe Pesci, Vincent Gardenia, and Ruben Blades. Lemon
Ben.
Sister, Diane Keaton, Elliot Gould, Adrian Quinn, Estelle Parsons, and Sully Boyar. Sully Boyar was one of my favorite guys. Sully Boyar was the guy in Car Wash. Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner, James L. Jones, Ray Liotta, Burt Lancaster. Danny Aiello, he works in Key Exchange. Stealing Home, Mark Harmon, Jodie Foster, Harold Raines, Richard Jenkins. Meryl Streep. Rabbit Hole, directed by John Cameron Mitchell. Illuminata with John Turturro. Penny Marshall. Scent of a Woman, Danny Glover. No, the Saint of Fort Washington, Danny Glover, Matt Dillon, Ving Rhames. Kiss of Death, David Caruso, Nicolas Cage, Samuel Jackson, Stanley Tucci, Michael Rappaport. I mean, have we left anybody out? I mean, is there not some top star that you have not seen or worked with? So with a resume that overwhelming, you wonder, how the hell did you get to that? How did you get to be the guy that is called on for every one of these movies? Take us from photography to becoming a really top line camera operator.
Well, it's I don't think it would be possible today, but I think I was really, really lucky, and because I started very late, didn't know what the hell I was going to do with my life, and I was working for the welfare department for two-year stints, and then started to drive a cab, and then put together I love photography, so I put together a portfolio and began knocking on doors around New York City using the Madison Avenue Handbook for all of the top photographers in New York. And finally, some photographer, a guy by the name of Dave Langley, who used to do all of the Volkswagen ads, he needed his ceiling painted. So he hired me for $72 a week.
That was more than welfare paid.
It was much better than hiring a contractor to do it. So he had me for $72 a week, and I was painting the ceiling of his loft space. Well, I worked with him for about 3 years, and in that 3-year period, I went from being the third to the second to the first assistant, the darkroom guy, and then became the manager, the studio manager, which I I don't know if everybody's familiar with the Peter principle, but like you get Peter
Go
principle
as far as you can. Right.
You get hired to the point of your incompetence, and you get raised to your, So I became the production manager, and I was terrible at that, and but I used it to sort of, like I was the guy responsible. The photographer was starting to do commercials, and he needed to get a photographer, a cameraman to shoot his commercials. And I would hire the cameraman, and under the agreement that if I gave them the job, they would teach me the camera. And so I had a career as an assistant cameraman, and I was good at that, just like I was good at all of the other the technical things. And then I was good enough that a very good cameraman, the director of photography, John Lindley, asked me to be his operator on a show that was the first show that was in New York in 5 years. And he got the show, and he wasn't excited about it, but it was the best work he could find. And so he said, listen, I know this is a stinky job, but if you come in, I'll make you the B camera operator. And so I obviously had success with that. I did Field of Dreams with him, and Pleasantville with him over the years. So those were two of the things that came out of this.
Where was that? That wasn't shot in New York. You had to leave New York for that, didn't you?
The Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams?
Iowa. Yeah, and Pleasantville was done in L.A. And that was an odd one, because bringing me to L.A., bringing a New York operator to L.A. is sort of like bringing, a cup of sand to the Sahara.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
So
could you make any money when you were working as an assistant photographer and assistant and all that? Is there enough there that you could subsist with that, or did it?
you can make a very good living as an assistant cameraman in New York. Working as an assistant for a photographer, no. Yeah, as I said, $72 a week is, to paint the ceiling to start with, and I don't think I ever made more than 125 a week until I became his studio manager. Which, as I mentioned before, I failed at. uh, no, you can't. Rough to make a living as an assistant in photography, but not. There's plenty of people that make very good livings. The man who was my assistant on most of my New York jobs is still working in the business and still making a very good living. He lives in a
Yeah.
wonderful house in Jersey. It's it is in the film industry. There's a very strong union, and so there's there very good wages and benefits, etc.
Can you tell us for those of us that don't know, the difference between an A operator and a B operator?
Well, not that this, the operator, basically he's the guy that gets hired by the director of photography at the beginning of the job. You're the right hand of the DP, of the cameraman, because cameraman, the DP generally just run the set and do and light the scene and set up the shots. Now it all depends. There were some shows where I would set up the shots, and there were some shows where the DP would set up. This is what I want, and just tell me what to do. Right.
Did learning all of that come easy?
Yeah, I mean, it was, sort of second nature. Photography, sort of a second nature for me. And so, yeah, it became easy. I mean, you reminded me of on the Scent of a Woman, the DP on that show, Bobby Byrne, set up this very weird shot that starting on somebody's hand on this arm of a chair, and then going to the fireplace, and then going across the mantelpiece, and then around to.
Was this in the hotel room in New York?
This was on a set.
No, I mean the set. The set sounds
it was
like
a hotel room in New York set. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think the shot ever, there's the pieces of it that might be in the movie, but I mean, it's one of these things where, it was about 180 degrees and about 90 to 100 degrees vertically too,
Wow.
So it's like you go, you go up, you go down, you go around, you go over, it was a silly shot.
What was it like? What was it like to work with Pacino? Was he impatient, or would he wait and be a pro about it, or what?
Pacino is a pro. He's a really. I don't think he liked that job. I mean, like, if you remember the movie, he's blind,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And here's a great actor who could not remember his lines and had the art department every day doing all of his lines on cue cards, and we would have to, and the DP would have, wasn't sure whether he wanted to have a white bounce or a black bounce, so they'd have to do it on a white card, and they do it on a black card, until the DP got ready to shoot. And and
So it's tough to read your lines if you're
and
blind.
so he read all of his lines being blind.
And
I
and
don't.
yet and yet
Go
he
ahead.
still looked like he was blind, even though he was reading, which is interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You see the movie, you swear he's blind. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's there.
yeah, he had that. Yeah, he had the
Yeah,
squeezed eyes, trying to read, read his lines. It's like, I don't, it to me, at the end of that movie, the last big day we had in the movie, we had an extra camera in. That movie carried 2 cameras. It was one of the first movies I had ever worked on that we always had a B camera. The movies nowadays have A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
There's multiple cameras on almost every shoot. Now in those early days, a B camera was the extra guy that came in for extra work. On this one, the last big day we had on Son of a Woman, we had a C camera, and at the end of the day, the DP came walking into the camera room, and so there were like 10 of us in there or something or other, 3 operators, 3 assistants, 3 second assistants, 3 loaders, maybe 12, I don't know. Anyway, he comes into the room and he says, hey fellas, I never get it, at the end of a movie, I never know whether this is going to be a good movie or not. What do you guys feel? So me, I pipe up right away, and I said, are you fucking kidding me? This movie is going to be terrible. This is awful. It's like, Al is like walking through it, reading his lines off cue cards. It's like the director never knows what he wants and just shoots millions and millions of shots. And we rarely have any master shots. It's all, 2 shots and close-ups. It just can't make it as a movie.
Yeah. Wow.
That's how smart I was.
What I want to know about is the car scene. We're downtown, and where they got a Ferrari or a Maserati or something like that, and they're going to go shooting through the streets with him driving. How did you do that one?
Well, most of it, well, actually, I don't think of the most. We had some tow, but he actually did drive, and we had cameras mounted on the car. And he drove like he read the cue card,
Right. So what? The police have to close off all the cross streets and all that.
Oh,
I mean, that
yeah.
sounds like a major.
We owned Dumbo then, and that was pretty easy to own Dumbo at that time. There was hardly anybody down there. But we had, I don't know, 5, 6 square blocks, that, were all ours, and nobody could go down there.
Where did they shoot the university scene, with Chris O'Donnell and the father, where they go in front of the provost and all that?
Well, the interior, and the big scene in the interior, I think it was on Central Park West. I think it was what was the name of that? It was like the Church of What's Happening Now. The
Universal Life or something
Universal,
like that.
Yes. Yeah. It was that place.
Wow.
And that was, here was an old fabulous building, with like a 4-story ceiling and stuff, and the grips, who sometimes are denigrated, I'm only a grip and stuff. The grips got 9,500-pound lights mounted to the ceiling, of this place without destroying the ceiling, without doing anything, I mean, it was magic that they pulled off in that place. You know, really magic. The exterior of that of the thing was a boarding school up near Troy, New York. And I don't remember the name of it. Those beautiful exteriors of
Yeah.
in that thing. Fabulous, fabulous. It was a fabulous place. I don't remember the name of it, but it was beautiful.
So when you're working on a movie like that, they pick up all the costs, transportation, hotels,
Oh,
food.
absolutely, absolutely. You're you're sort of a king. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
it's like
I see all the trailers in the city when they set up the sets in the city. I mean, the food is like catered like from Balducci's and places like, really good stuff.
absolutely, absolutely. Got to have good food because you have A-list actors, and then and that's where they're eating too. You know, so and that is a big thing. The caterers get fired often, after the first week. And everybody sort of knows the good ones and the bad ones. It's
Mhm.
and that of course changes. It's like restaurants change.
I would imagine this is a very unpredictable uh, lifestyle. You're working outside, and all of a sudden it's raining, or you're working and it's cold and it's freezing, and you're traveling all the time, living in funny places. What's some of the hardest things you ever had to do with as a camera operator? What was some of the toughest shoots?
Well, and I'm not even remembering right now the name of this movie, but there were the worst night that I remember is that we were on a bridge in Bayonne, New Jersey. When
That's a bad start just to begin with.
and it was in the middle of the winter, and it started to sleet, and we were filming on this bridge, and the camera and all of us were covered in sleet, you know,
Oh,
and and we finally broke for dinner, and then we came in and took off all of our clothes, tried to find something that wasn't wet, or find new clothes and stuff, and then went back out into that and worked until the sun came up in the morning. It was misery. It was
oh.
real. It was like there was no glamour to the film business there. I
So
can
they
tell you.
wouldn't have a tent or anything for you to work out of, and just have the camera sticking out? It's not something
No.
like that.
Well, I
No.
mean, the camera. I was lucky enough that the camera was usually is the primary thing. Has to be covered. Has to have some sort of you have to be able to uh, not get the lens all fogged up, and
Right.
so there's usually basically umbrellas is what's used most of the time in those situations. But that one was like, if anybody knows Bayonne, or those there were all of these cross breezes that like,
Absolutely.
so the sleet was coming from all from all different sides. Just wasn't just coming right down from the top where you could control it. So that but a lot of the other guys, the guys that are moving lights around, the guys that are setting up flags and stands and diffusion material, they're outside the whole time getting, nobody protecting them. I lived in a more treasured place, where
Yeah.
the camera had to be taken care of.
Ken,
You mentioned
about
before working with Field of Dreams. You were out. Where was that shot? Was that out in somewhere in Nebraska or Kansas or someplace like that?
Iowa?
It
Iowa.
was in Iowa. It was in Iowa. We were housed in near Dubuque, or on the outskirts of Dubuque. We used Dubuque for Boston. And Dubuque is an old factory town with old brick buildings, and so it worked. You would think you were in Boston. You
Looks like
see
it was Southie, right?
areas. What's that?
Looks like it was Southie,
South.
the industrial section of Boston.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But the field was actually in a town 25 miles interior of Iowa by the name of Dyersville, which, I'm not so sure I ever saw the town of Dyersville. It was like, it was like a little bit like out here. I'm in Dingman's Ferry, and there's no real town to Dingman's Ferry.
Yeah.
It's, but that was probably one of the most cleverest setups ever. They found this house and that they wanted to use, and then the field that adjoined it was actually on somebody else's property. And so they ended up getting permissions on both properties, and then planting corn early enough for it to grow. And
they couldn't find a cornfield. It was already there.
No, there's no, it's like,
sounds like Hollywood.
This is planning ahead, like the job got a green light somewhere in January or February, and they went out and looked for locations. And, I don't know all the ins and outs of that. I wasn't involved in that, but what the production manager did on that job was he realized that, very often Iowa gets these hot, dry summers. And so he said, well, we need a cornfield. We need, a cornfield that's, that looks like a cornfield. And so he found a stream somewhere nearby and built a creek or a runoff from the stream. And we had the only corn in Iowa that summer that was over 4 foot tall. All the other corn was mostly dry and 3.5, 4 foot tall.
Wow.
And what that corn looked like there. I mean, this guy was really smart. Like to think that far in advance.
Wow.
And set this thing up so that we had the one field of corn in Iowa.
So what was it like working with Costner?
Costner was so thrilled to have that job. That was like it was a breakout job for him. He's done a couple of other
Because
things.
He's a baseball guy too.
How it's that?
He's a baseball guy.
He's a baseball nut. He loves baseball. He loves baseball. And so this was a dream job for him. Dream job. And he, and with all, and he was, because he was the star of the movie, because he got all of those perks that he probably had never gotten before. He had he had a house on a golf course that was about 50 miles away, and a driver, to bring him there and take him home every night. And when he had days off or a morning off, he'd play golf, and then he'd come in, and he was he wanted to bond with everybody. I mean, he was like a regular guy. He was like a valley boy, who went to a southern, went to California university system, and his story about becoming an actor was driving to school one day. He was setting his rearview mirror, and he pulled it too close to him, and he saw himself in the mirror, and he said, "I've seen that shot in a movie. I can do that. I can do that. Oh, I think I'll be an actor."
So what's it like for
when
you are out there and you're following all the directions and you're getting that perfect scene, okay? And then you find out it ends up on the cutting floor. What is that really like? Because I happen to have a friend of our family. and she's an editor. And she said that sometimes she cries when she's actually editing something because she knows how beautiful it is, but it's just not right for the scene.
Yeah. Well, the she has much more of that experience than I do, because she's putting together something or other, and then and like when you're out there filming, you film lots of stuff that never make it into the movie, lots of beautiful shots that aren't in that don't make it in the movie. And I don't know, maybe fortunately, because I don't have a very good memory. I never cried over anything that was missing that I can think of. I actually, I'll have to search the dregs of my memory, and because I do seem to remember something or other that bothered me that wasn't in the movie, and I don't remember what movie or what, but I'll work on that for you.
So when you're on location, Ken, and you're out there and the actors are all doing it, and now you have all the technical crew and directors and all that stuff, and the day's shoot is over. Do they hang with you? Do they go to their
No.
own places and stuff, or is there ever a time where they sit down, break bread, sit around, have some wine, and talk?
Rare. It's that is rare. They're usually housed in a different place than the crew is. Usually having their own condo or something or other, or house in the Costner place. So you rarely have that situation.
I got a question of that. Where does the director fall in that? Does he fall with the elite and the actors, or does he stay with the crew?
Elite. Well, he's not elite, but he's not with the crew either. That's for sure. It's. I have broken bread with a bunch of actors, but maybe only one director.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, usually there isn't a mix, and a lot of my work was in New York City, so everybody went home. You go to your and then there are those location jobs. Pleasantville was a Los Angeles job, so everybody went home there too, and I went to my rented space.
And that was with Jeff Daniels, Joan Allen, William Macy. I mean, those are,
Some great people, and all of those people, great people. There's that's that was an amazing. Macy, one of a guy that really really was a man of the people, was was one with the crew, really. And Joan Allen to an extent too.
How about Danny Aiello? I mean, we knew him from The Village, right? He used to come into the Horse. He used to go into the Riviera. He was always with a bunch of local Italian guys, sit down, have a beer, talk. How was he to work with?
He's very approachable. Very he was part of. I think he felt closer to the crew than he felt to the actors or the directors. He was very approachable to people.
I remember.
Back to Costner. I mean, Costner was Costner wanted to be part of everybody. And since he loved baseball, hey, guys, let's knock some balls around, let's have a game, let's do this, but it was with Costner, it was always like it was his ball. It's like those guys in the playground that you think you're playing with them, but it's their ball. I
had that feeling when you talk about the man of the people. remember Philip Seymour Hoffman used to come in the White Horse after a shoot, be working in the city. He would just come in, sit at the bar. He was just like, no big deal. I'm here. I'm just having a beer. How's the burgers today? That kind of stuff. There are some people that just are approachable.
Yeah.
I remember the
I never,
opposite.
I never found him to be, that approachable. It's like on Son of a Woman, he was a kid. He was like 18 or something,
Yeah.
and I thought he was a real dick.
Yeah.
I really did. I thought that he was like, just so full of himself and bullshit. And then, years later, I don't even remember what movie this was, but after he had done some of his amazing work, and like what a body of work this man put together, and I tried talking to him, in a pizza place in the Village where he was setting up for a shot. He was setting up for a shot. He didn't want to talk to anybody. It's like, get the fuck out of here. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. It's like, so I never found, I never had really got anything approaching anything with him.
I've had a case of the butt against Bette Midler ever since. We have a mutual friend, Karen, a guy named Jack Ellis. He used to be a bartender and a waiter at a place called the Paris Restaurant over on Grove Street. And he used to tell me, "Hey, come in at 5 o'clock. Bette Midler comes in every night, 5 o'clock. She has a meal before she goes somewhere. Blah, blah. She was singing up on Broadway or something like that." So I went over to see him, just he, me, and her are in the restaurant. There's nobody else. So I go, "Oh, Bette, hello, how are you?" "I'm eating."
Well,
like, "I'm eating," like, go the fuck away. It's just unnecessary rudeness.
right.
I mean, I wasn't going to sit down at her table, and brush her eyebrows for her. But I was just going to say, "Hello, how are you? I'm a fan." And some people just are like, "I'm fucking eating," like, leave me alone.
It's funny because
Beyond.
my parents would come out to California when my brother was out there working in the industry. And one day he was taking them, I'm not sure where they were going, but my brother said, "You may see Johnny Carson here. Do not talk to him. Carson does not talk to anybody." Now you have to understand, there is my little Jewish mother. She stands 4 foot 10 inches tall, but she thinks she's 10 feet tall. And they're walking through the parking lot, and she sees him and she says, "Oh, Johnny, it's so nice to see you." And he stands there and talks to my mother. And my brother looks at her like, "How did this happen?"
Yeah.
Because he didn't acknowledge anybody on the set. And so, I think it depends on the person. Um, but,
Yeah.
they're probably approached all the time.
Yeah.
They want their privacy. I can get it.
Yeah.
I can get it.
How long is an average shoot for a movie?
What's that?
How many weeks do you have to spend to shoot a movie, an average movie, 2 hour movie, hour 45 minutes?
I don't know that there's such a thing as an average, because it all depends. It's like you have a big action thing and you're talking about 15 to 30 weeks. Because each one of those stunts takes forever to set up. An
Like
average talking people, like say Scent of a Woman was, I don't know if it was 10 or 12 weeks, something like that. That's Field of Dreams, probably 8. It's anywhere for, if you're basically shooting a drama, and they usually try to do it in 8 or 10 weeks or so.
Yeah.
But
other than the Bayonne Bridge and freezing sleet, what was some of your best times? Things you had with great location, great weather, good movie.
Well, Field of Dreams was I mean, that was a great experience, and it was it was it was not great weather. It was very, very hot in Iowa, very hot and dry. First time I ever saw anybody get heat stroke. Uh, Probably the most active electrician on the set. Suddenly, he was the guy you depended on for everything. I need this, I need that, and he would be there to do it. He dropped. He just dropped, had to taken away to a hospital, heat stroke. But Field of Dreams was like, it was the best script I had ever read. I lowered my price to be able to do it. The whole experience of that story, that was a very special experience.
To me, as a therapist looking at it, the most true stories are the ones that the author feels, that you can identify with. And I'm thinking that with Costner is such a baseball guy, getting his own shot, right, to be the guy, that must have come through because he was happy doing what he wanted to do and
Exactly.
had some juice, had some energy, and everybody else picked up on it, and it made for a joyous experience, because
Yes.
everybody was enjoying the fact that the guy in charge is having a good time.
Well, and it's not like he's really the guy in charge. I mean, there were some. I mean, the other great plus on that job was James Earl Jones, because what a gentleman, what a darling and wonderful human being.
Human being, yeah.
He was a great human being, a really great human being, and a great actor. The scene which they chopped up in the movie into a series of close-ups and back and forth and stuff like that. When the girl, Gabby Hoffman, says, is on the stands and says something, and he has that whole speech of people will come,
Yeah.
and that speech is like, I mean, right now, me just saying it, I have chills going through my body. Watching the dailies of him doing that speech from beginning to end was watching a genius actor, just bringing forth every fucking little nuance in the world. I mean, it was, it was a delight, and I was very disappointed when I saw the movie that they had to cut that. They didn't, and it probably wouldn't have worked in a movie theater to just have him, walking back and forth with this. So they went to close-ups and this, and Kevin's reaction and Gabby's reaction, and it wasn't the power, when it was in the watching dailies of him doing that scene was watching a master actor use every tool in the chest. It was just fabulous.
Have you gone back there since you shot the movie?
No.
Because we were there about 15 years ago.
And
I tell you feel like you're in the movie when you're there. You can actually feel it. And Major League Baseball has planned that they're going to play one game a year there.
That's what I heard. Yeah. That's what I may try going back to that for one of those things.
Road trip.
Yeah, road trip.
Road trip.
Big road trip. Big road trip.
On the road again. I was wondering, Ken, did you ever feel like you have an out of body experience? You're saying, "Oh my God, look where I am. Look what I'm doing. Here I am in Du Bois or wherever the hell, and look at the people I'm working with, and I'm doing what I want to do, and man, is this fun? This How did I get so lucky to do this?
Um, I don't know if I ever got it in the moment of doing it. It's there. There's when Field of Dreams was funny, as I mentioned before. It was like the best script I had ever heard and I have ever read, and we had some wonderful actors, and but the director was not happy. He was not enjoying it. He basically a writer, Phil, and Phil wasn't an experienced director. Burt Lancaster came in and treated him like he was shit. Burt having all of the, working with all of those great Hollywood directors over the years, and now he's working with this writer who's actually unhappy. Actually, one day he actually had the whole crew was together on the stands, and he said, I don't like this directing thing. Anybody want to direct? Anybody here want to come and direct? I mean, this is just us, the crew, the grips, the electrics, the props, the Teamsters,
Yeah. Put down that plunger. We can use you. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were working mostly in New York, now New York is the Sopranos. I mean,
right.
The whole world of the Sopranos is Jersey and New York. But what was it like around? I've heard so many stories about how marvelous Gandolfini is, and other times I've heard
Gandolfini is like. Go ahead.
He's got moods,
Yeah, he's an actor, so he definitely has moods. Actors are not like the rest of us human beings.
Yeah. I mean, that show was so hot, and it must have been incredible to be there filming it, knowing that you got a big hit here, and every millions of people lining up to watch this thing on Sunday night.
Well, it's sort of there's a whole strange thing about it. About the first season of Sopranos was one of the most out of control movies that anybody had ever experienced. They were working 18 hours a day. They were not being fed. They were not nobody. It was like everybody was surprised it was picked up. But most people came back. Some people bailed after the first year or the second year. I wasn't on the first year, so I didn't have the totally bad experience. When I found myself complaining about the hours or the lack of something or other, a lack of water, coffee, proper food, whatever. They said, "Oh, you should have been here the first year. This is great. You're really lucky that it's." But Gandolfini, that was I think it was held together mostly by him and by there goes my memory. His wife,
Lorraine Bracco.
Lorraine. No, not Lorraine.
Edie Falco.
Nurse Jackie.
Edie Falco.
Edie Falco. Both of them, James and Edie, more human being than actor. They're just like they were just one with everybody else. They were we're doing this. We're doing this together. We're all here. He was a real wonderful gentleman. Really total, and what a great actor. Pull off a character that was so opposite of who he is as a human being.
I used to see Van Zant in the Village all the time. And actually, got to
Yeah.
know. Hello, hey, how are you doing today? How's it going? Blah, blah. He would be in one day he'd have on his rag top and do that. Because he was in Bruce's band. And
Right.
then the other time he was the Italian guy working working on his soprano.
Did he actually wear his wig to the?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He was in character. You could tell which character he was in when he was in there was no neutral. He was
He's
a rocker with leather, and the bandana, or he was a greaseball. I mean, he was one or the other, you know.
he's a cool guy.
And a talented guy.
Yeah,
Talented.
Gandolfini, Amy had written this script that we still have not gotten produced. That really this wonderful script about a love affair that happens by chance. And up in, a New York cop comes, can't find a place to stay. His car breaks down. He ends up in a motel with this woman who's lost her husband in a hunting accident, and it becomes a love story between these two people. And we asked Gandolfini to do it, and Gandolfini says, "Why you want me? This is a romance. Do you know what I look like? You see, you see how overweight I am? He said, well, what do you want me to do this for? It's like, he said, I
Never
love
stopped to
I
listen
love the
well.
script. It's a great script, but like, I'm not the right guy for this.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I think he could have done anything. He would have done it.
And one of the movies that I with such a great cast was Fried Green Tomatoes. Tell us about that movie.
Well, the one thing that comes to mind, or with me, whenever we're talking about that movie, is Kathy Bates was so thrilled to be working with Jessica Tandy. She was like a little girl around
Yeah.
Jessica. I got a scene with Jessica today. I'm gonna do a scene with Jessica today. It's like, I can't wait. And she would be following her around and being, like her puppy dog. Like,
Wow.
and she, Kathy Bates, a great actress and actor.
And there's Cicely Tyson running around, and Mary Louise Park. I mean, you got a lot of talented women. Yeah,
Yeah,
Stewart,
a lot of talented women.
a lot of talented women around
A lot
there.
of talented women. A lot of yeah. And it's that's what I remember. I mean, that was a movie that actually the set was was a thing that really made that movie. They found a town in Georgia that had failed. That was like sort of a one street town. There's one of them out here on the other side of the river, and everybody moved out. The train used to stop there. It was right along the train tracks, right?
Yeah.
And this place actually existed, as the Whistle Stop Cafe. I mean, probably wasn't called the Whistle Stop Cafe, but I don't know what it was called. But it was right along the train tracks. It was a place where they would stop the train, and I think they probably refueled or something, or picked up farm goods or whatever. And people would, and you would people would go to this restaurant. And it really made the movie that, that street, that dead town, that, and I mean, it was the actors that made that movie. Jessica Tandy and Kathy Bates, Mary Stuart Masterson, and Mary Louise Parker. Wow. I mean, what a great group of actors. Great group of actors. Amazing.
And you worked with I mean, Joe Pesci and Mark Harmon and
Pesci. Pesci. That's like,
Pesci's got to be a trip to work.
Pesci was a. This is a real. This is a. The Super was sort of a grade B movie that that Pesci was the star of, and so so he did it, of course, and we had a maybe grade D director. This is a director who would go to pickup bars on the Upper West Side and put down his DGA card in front of the cutest girl in the place. I mean, he was a real jerk.
What you got, right?
He was a real asshole guy, and Pesci really disliked him. And what I remember most was we did the movie and we had all sorts of it was a horrible little tenement building that we actually did it on location rather than a studio. They took a rundown tenement building and built the location inside of it. We finished the movie and they had missed a couple of shots, and so somewhere a month or 2 months later, they had a reshoot to finish up some shots.
Mhm.
And one of the shots they had missed was this guy, I don't know, with a club or a knife. I don't remember what he had, but he was, going to beat or hurt Pesci. And so my position was sitting on the ground with a handheld camera, and Pesci was on my lap, for the eye line, so that the actor, we were shooting the actor. We had shot Pesci's scene, months before, on Pesci's side of the scene. And Pesci's on my lap, and he looks up to me and he says, "How come you came back? Why did you come back? I had to come back, but why did you come back? What are you doing here? This is a stinko. Why are you here?" I said, "Well, Pesci, I didn't have any work this week, and it was a job that was, and I got called, so I came."
You got to work with one of my idols. I remember when I was a teenager and I watched television, and then there was a social worker on the show with George C. Scott playing the social worker. And he was like a human guy who went into tenements and got the real story and helped people. And it was like a role model for me, and I always wanted to meet him. And then I look here and I see in Gloria with Sharon Stone and George C. Scott that you got to film this on.
I didn't know. Gloria, I didn't do the whole Gloria movie. I basically was the second unit DP on that movie. So I had no personal experience with George C. Scott. Little interaction with Sharon Stone, not much. Mostly doing car stuff on that show. That's that isn't one of the my A camera move things.
And lastly, as we're rolling down, I want you to tell everybody about the lens that you invented.
Wow.
The what?
The ferrite.
I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't invent the lens.
I thought you
The
adapted
ferrite?
that long lens that you said you had back problems and you couldn't lean in and you had to make an extended lens. That's not a true story?
No, you got the story a little bit confused. It's like, most of the movies at that time were done in Panavision. When Panavision had the state-of-the-art film camera at that time, the Panaflex, great camera. And the Panaflex came with an eyepiece that was, I don't know, maybe a foot and a half long or something like that. That it's and then I don't know if it was from my complaints about my sore neck and my sore back, but you know, they came out with what they called the medium eyepiece, where it became known as the Ferri. The, the
I got it right.
the Ferri. Yeah, it wasn't a lens. It was actually the eyepiece to the Panaflex camera. Yeah, and it was called the Ferri.
And do you have one? Do you have one signed by everybody?
No, it's, you don't get to take the equipment away from the rental house. they don't look kindly on that.
Well,
So Karen,
you have to
got any
bring
comments?
we have to bring Ken back, because there's so much more about you that I think people want to know. And one of the things I'd like to hear more about, not just your past career, but your gardening career. You're the state of the art gardener.
He is.
Not exactly. That's
You have
that-
to, he's
oh,
too much.
that is-
You have to see what he's done in his backyard.
I
You
know.
really have to see this thing.
Absolutely. So
I mean, in springtime, in early summer, it is the most beautiful place with all these different
Thank you.
colors and birds and everything out there. He's done a masterful job.
so you've got
Thank
an
you.
eye for art, and we'll need to talk about that.
Okay.
Okay.
We will.
All right, good.
Okay.
Well, we'll be back again in 2 weeks. I never know what kayaking is going to talk about, but you will be yakking, won't you, Ken?
I will.
All right.
No problem. You know that.
Well, have a great day. Stay healthy. Wear your
Thank you.
mask, and we'll see you all soon. Bye.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
Ken, I'm going to call you.
you. Okay.